A lonely farmer pretended to be poor while seeking a wife, and only the most rejected girl showed him love. Hassan had lived all his life in a small village, surrounded by green fields that stretched as far as the eyes could see. The village was quiet, peaceful, and simple. Most people in the village were farmers, just like him, and life followed the rhythm of the seasons. Despite the calm and beauty around him, Hassan often felt a deep emptiness inside. He worked hard every day, tending to his crops, feeding the animals, and fixing fences, yet he felt a loneliness that no amount of work could fill. His parents had passed away when he was still young, leaving him alone in the world. He had no brothers or sisters, and though he had a few friends, they were all busy with their own lives. He often went home to an empty house after a long day of labor, feeling the silence press down on him. Hassan had grown used to this solitude, but as he reached his early 30s, he realized that something was missing. He longed for companionship, for someone who would care for him not just as a provider, but as a person. He wanted a partner with whom he could share his life, someone who would understand him, laugh with him, and walk alongside him through the ups and downs of life. But in his heart, he worried that if he revealed his true status, people might only be interested in his wealth and prosperity. His farm had done very well over the years, and he had saved enough to live comfortably. Yet the thought of marrying someone who only loved him for his money made him feel uneasy. After many sleepless nights thinking about this, Hassan came up with an unusual plan. He decided to pretend he was poor. He would wear simple, worn-out clothes instead of the fine shirts and trousers he could afford. He would speak humbly, act as though he had very little to offer, and hide the success of his farm. In this way, he could see the true nature of anyone who wished to marry him. He wanted to find a woman who would love him for who he was, not for what he had. It was a bold plan, and he knew it could be risky. Some villagers might laugh, some might think he was foolish, but he felt it was the only way to discover genuine love. Hassan began his preparations carefully. He cleaned his old wooden house until it looked modest but tidy. He chose the clothes he would wear when meeting potential brides, simple, patched garments that did not reflect his true wealth. He practiced speaking humbly and politely, avoiding any mention of money, his farm, or his possessions. He even made small repairs to the farm in a way that made it seem less productive than it really was. Every morning he would work in the fields, keeping his head down, greeting villagers with a shy smile, and never boasting about his harvest or income. As the days passed, Hassan observed the village quietly. He watched families, couples, and young women who were preparing for marriage. Some of the women were from wealthy families, some from poor ones, but most of them seemed concerned about social status and family connections. He felt a pang of disappointment each time he saw someone married for wealth or position. Hassan wanted something different. He wanted a love that was simple, honest, and sincere. Finally, after weeks of planning, Hassan made his announcement. He told the villagers that he was seeking a bride. He spoke softly, humbly, and with a shy smile, making it clear that he had very little to offer. Many villagers were surprised. They knew Hassan was wealthy and respected in the village, yet he claimed poverty and simplicity. Some whispered to each other, calling him strange or even foolish. Others were curious and wondered who would be brave enough to accept such a humble man. Some young women laughed at the idea, thinking he was joking, while others felt a spark of interest, intrigued by his modesty. Among the villagers, there was a mix of reactions. Some families thought it was an opportunity for their daughters to marry a man they believed had little to offer, thinking he would be humble and easy to influence. Others were skeptical, unsure if anyone would take him seriously. The village buzzed with gossip, and stories about the poor farmer seeking a wife spread quickly. But Hassan paid little attention to the gossip. He knew that this journey was personal and that it required patience, honesty, and courage. Hassan's days became a careful balance of work and observation. He continued tending to his crops, feeding his animals, and repairing fences, but he also began to think about the qualities he truly desired in a life partner. He wanted someone kind, humble, hardworking, and sincere, someone who could see the goodness in people and value love more than material wealth. Every day, he imagined walking through the fields with a loving companion, sharing meals, laughing together, and building a home filled with warmth and respect. These thoughts made him feel both hope and nervous anticipation. Meanwhile, the villagers were beginning to notice Hassan's humility in action. Even though they knew he was wealthy, his actions and words made it seem as though he lived a simple, difficult life. He helped others in small ways without drawing attention to himself, and he always treated people with respect and kindness. This quiet dignity impressed some villagers, though they still whispered about his unusual behavior. Hassan hoped that this quiet authenticity would reach the heart of the right woman, even if it went unnoticed by many others. Hassan's loneliness was sometimes hard to bear. In the evenings, he would sit outside his house, watching the sun set over the fields. He would listen to the birds singing and the wind rustling through the trees, feeling a longing in his heart. He often wondered if anyone would ever love him for who he was, not for what he owned. Yet, he never gave up hope. He reminded himself that patience and sincerity could reveal true love, and he held onto that belief tightly. One afternoon, as Hassan was repairing a fence near the edge of his farm, he saw a young woman walking along the dusty village path. She was carrying a small basket and walking slowly, her eyes focused on the ground. Hassan noticed that she moved with quiet confidence, yet there was a gentleness in her manner. He felt a strange curiosity about her, wondering who she might be. At that moment, he realized that perhaps the right person would come along when he least expected it. He smiled quietly to himself and returned to his work, feeling a flicker of hope that the loneliness might one day end. Days turned into weeks, and Hassan continued his quiet search. He spoke politely to anyone who expressed interest in meeting him but remained cautious, observing their words, actions, and intentions. Some women were polite but clearly interested only in wealth or status, and Hassan gently declined their proposals. Others were hesitant or shy, and he tried to put them at ease, never judging anyone for their fears or insecurities. Through it all, Hassan remained patient and steadfast in his goal, to find someone who would love him for who he was inside, not for the life he could provide. Hassan also spent time reflecting on himself. He realized that pretending to be poor required more than hiding wealth. It required honesty with oneself. He had to remember why he was doing this, and he had to remain true to his own values and principles. He understood that finding a genuine connection would not be easy, but he also knew that it would be worth every moment of effort and patience. As the season changed, the farm blossomed under Hassan's care, though he made it appear modest to outsiders. He continued to plant, water, and harvest, always quietly and without pride. The villagers noticed his hard work and humility, and some began to respect him in a new way. They saw that his focus was not on showing off or gaining attention, but on living a good, honest life. Hassan's plan was slowly unfolding, and he felt a quiet satisfaction that he was taking the right steps to find true love. And so, life continued in the small village. Hassan worked diligently, cared for his farm, and maintained his humble appearance, all while quietly hoping that one day, the right person would notice him for who he really was. Every evening, as the sun set behind the hills and the sky turned golden, Hassan felt a mixture of longing, hope, and determination. He knew that love could come from the most unexpected place, and he was ready to welcome it with an open heart when it arrived. The villagers whispered, the seasons changed, and Hassan remained patient. He had taken the first step on a journey that would test his courage, patience, and heart. And somewhere in the village, a kind and humble soul was preparing to cross paths with him, unaware of the extraordinary bond that would soon develop. For Hassan, this was only the beginning of a story that promised love, trust, and the discovery of someone who could see beyond appearances and embrace the true man beneath the humble exterior. Among the villagers, there was a young woman named Amina. She was not the kind of girl people often noticed immediately. She was quiet, plain in appearance, and lived a life that was simple and unassuming. People often overlooked her, and when marriage proposals came, she was usually rejected. Some villagers thought she was too shy, others believed she was too ordinary. But what they did not see was the depth of her heart. Amina was gentle, kind, hardworking, and patient. She spent her days helping her family, taking care of her younger siblings, and assisting neighbors whenever she could. She never complained about her situation, even though she knew she was often underestimated. When Amina heard the news that Hassan, the farmer, was seeking a wife, she felt a mix of curiosity and hope. She had heard the whispers in the village, the rich, successful farmer pretending to be poor, looking for a bride. Many girls laughed at the idea, thinking he was joking or that nobody would want him. But Amina was different. She did not care about wealth, status, or gossip. What intrigued her was the sincerity in his announcement. She sensed that he was not just playing a game, but genuinely searching for someone who could love him for who he truly was. Amina spent several days thinking carefully before deciding to meet Hassan. She had been rejected many times before, and her heart had learned to be cautious. Yet, something about Hassan's humility and quiet dignity gave her courage. She realized that this was an opportunity she could not ignore. She wanted to see for herself the man behind the rumors and to understand his true character. Amina resolved that if she met him, she would be honest, kind, and true to herself, without pretending or hiding who she was. The day finally came when Amina walked toward Hassan's farm. She carried a small basket filled with simple fruits and vegetables from her family's garden as a gesture of respect and goodwill. As she approached, she noticed Hassan tending to his fields. He was wearing simple, patched clothes and moved with care, his hands skilled from years of hard work. She observed quietly from a distance, taking in the way he worked, the way he treated the animals, and the way he seemed so focused and content with his tasks. There was a sense of humility and honesty in his every action, something that she had rarely seen in others. When Hassan noticed her standing there, he smiled politely. "Good morning," he said in a soft voice. "Can I help you with something?" His words were humble, yet there was a quiet warmth in his tone. Amina stepped forward shyly, holding out her basket. "Good morning, sir. I brought these for you. I thought they might be useful for your meals," she said, her voice gentle and calm. Hassan was surprised but pleased by her gesture. He could see that she had put thought and care into bringing the fruits and vegetables, and that made him feel respected and valued. "Thank you," he replied sincerely. "That is very kind of you. Please, sit with me for a while. I would like to know more about you." They sat together on a small wooden bench near the edge of the field. Hassan listened intently as Amina spoke about her daily life, her family, and her dreams. She did not speak boastfully or seek to impress him. She spoke simply and honestly, and Hassan found himself drawn to her quiet strength and sincerity. As they talked, Hassan noticed something remarkable about Amina. She had faced rejection and challenges in her life, yet she had remained kind and compassionate. She had learned patience, understanding, and empathy through her experiences. Hassan realized that she possessed a beauty far deeper than appearances or wealth. It was a beauty of the heart and soul. He found himself wishing that more people could see the world the way she did, with honesty, care, and humility. Amina, on her part, also began to see Hassan in a new light. She could sense that he was different from other men she had met. He did not talk about money or status, and he did not try to impress her with words or gestures. He was genuine, hardworking, and respectful. She felt comfortable around him, as if she could be herself without fear of judgment or rejection. There was a calmness in his presence that made her feel safe, valued, and seen. Over the next few weeks, Amina and Hassan continued to meet. They spent time together in the fields, helping with daily chores and sharing meals. They walked along the narrow village paths, talking about simple things, childhood memories, hopes for the future, and small observations about life in the village. Each meeting strengthened their connection, and they began to understand each other in ways that words could scarcely capture. Hassan was careful not to reveal his true wealth, keeping the pretense of poverty alive. He wanted to ensure that Amina's feelings were genuine and not influenced by material possessions. He observed how she treated others, how she reacted to difficulties, and how she cared for the less fortunate. Every kind action she performed, every patient word she spoke, reassured him that she was the kind of person he had been searching for. At the same time, Amina was discovering more about Hassan's character. She noticed the way he cared for his animals, the way he tended to his crops, and the quiet respect he showed toward everyone he met. He was strong yet humble, determined yet gentle. She began to admire him not for his outward success, but for the integrity and goodness he carried within. She felt a deep respect and affection growing in her heart, and she knew that her feelings were genuine. Not everyone in the village approved of this developing bond. Gossip spread quickly, as it always did. Some villagers laughed, calling the match unlikely and impossible. The richest farmer and the girl everyone rejected. That will never work, they said. Others whispered about how strange it was that Hassan, known for his wealth, was choosing someone so plain and overlooked. Despite the murmurs, Amina and Hassan ignored the gossip. They focused only on each other, trusting that their hearts would guide them to what was right. One day, a sudden storm approached while they were working in the fields together. Rain began to fall and the wind blew fiercely. Hassan worried about his crops and Amina noticed his concern. "Don't worry," she said calmly. "We can face this together. Even if the crops are damaged, we will find a way." Her words comforted him. In that moment, Hassan realized that Amina's love was not shallow or conditional. She cared for him as a person, not for the land he owned or the wealth he might have. Her encouragement and faith gave him strength, and he felt a sense of gratitude he had never known before. As days turned into weeks, their bond grew stronger. They laughed together, shared stories of past hardships, and supported each other in small, meaningful ways. Hassan began to feel a warmth in his heart that he had not experienced in years. He felt understood, appreciated, and valued. He also began to see that Amina had her own quiet strength. Her patience, her resilience, and her gentle nature made her a partner he could rely on in both good times and bad. Amina, too, found herself thinking about Hassan often. She admired his honesty, his humility, and his dedication to his farm and community. She was drawn to his quiet wisdom and the kindness he showed in everyday life. She began to dream of a future with him, not a grand or luxurious future, but one filled with love, respect, and partnership. She realized that true happiness did not come from wealth or social status, but from being with someone who truly cared for her heart and soul. Despite the growing affection between them, both Hassan and Amina remained cautious. They knew that trust and patience were important, and they did not rush their feelings. They continued to observe each other, to learn about one another's values, and to ensure that their connection was built on sincerity. This careful approach only deepened their respect for each other. Over time, the villagers began to notice the closeness between Hassan and Amina. Some were surprised, others skeptical, but many could not help admiring the quiet bond they shared. It was not based on appearances, gossip, or expectations. It was a connection rooted in understanding, kindness, and genuine care. Hassan and Amina had found in each other what most people spent a lifetime searching for: a love that was honest, patient, and unconditional. Through these shared moments, Hassan began to feel hope for the future. He realized that his plan to pretend poverty had worked, not because it was clever, but because it allowed him to see the heart of the person he hoped to spend his life with. He felt a deep sense of peace knowing that Amina's affection was true and unselfish. Amina, in turn, felt a growing confidence that Hassan was the man she could trust and love for the rest of her life. By the time the first flowers of spring bloomed in the village, Hassan and Amina had spent countless hours together. They had faced small challenges, shared quiet joys, and built a foundation of mutual respect and affection. Their hearts were slowly opening to each other, and the promise of something beautiful and lasting seemed within reach. Though many in the village continued to gossip, Hassan and Amina paid no attention. They had discovered a rare and precious truth. Love was not about wealth, appearances, or status. It was about understanding, patience, and caring for one another through life's ups and downs. Their growing bond was proof that even the most overlooked and rejected souls could find happiness when they encountered someone who truly saw them. And so, in the quiet village among green fields and humble homes, two hearts began to beat in harmony. Hassan, the farmer who had feared being loved only for his wealth, found solace in Amina's sincerity. Amina, the girl who had been rejected and overlooked, discovered that her kindness and patience could be recognized and cherished. Their story, which had begun with uncertainty and hope, was unfolding slowly and beautifully, promising a future filled with trust, love, and shared dreams. As the seasons changed, Hassan and Amina spent more time together. What had begun as curiosity and cautious interest was slowly blossoming into a deep bond. They worked side by side in the fields, planted new crops, and repaired fences. Every small task became an opportunity to learn more about one another. Hassan was struck by Amina's patience and diligence. No matter how hard the work was, she faced it with a gentle smile and steady hands. She never complained about the labor, and she encouraged him when he felt tired or frustrated. Amina, too, noticed Hassan's dedication. He was not only hardworking but also thoughtful and kind. He treated everyone in the village with respect, never looking down on anyone, and he cared deeply for the animals and the land he tended. She realized that beneath his quiet, humble exterior was a man of integrity, someone who believed in honesty, fairness, and kindness. Watching him, she felt a growing admiration that quietly turned into affection. She could see that his humility was genuine and that his desire for true love was sincere. Their days were filled with simple pleasures. They would sit under the shade of an old tree after hours of work, sharing pieces of bread, dates, or fruits from Amina's basket. Sometimes they would laugh together at small accidents in the fields, a chicken running past them, a cow knocking over a basket, or Hassan tripping over a rock. Their laughter was easy and unforced, a sign of the comfort they felt in each other's company. The quiet moments were just as meaningful, filled with shared glances, soft smiles, and the warmth of understanding. One morning, a sudden storm swept through the village. Dark clouds rolled in, and the wind began to howl. Rain poured down heavily, drenching the fields and threatening to damage the crops. Hassan worried about the harvest and the work he had put into the farm. Amina noticed his concern and placed her hand gently on his arm. "Don't worry," she said softly. "We will manage. The rain may be strong, but we are stronger together." Her words gave him courage and comfort. In that moment, Hassan realized how deeply he had come to rely on Amina's support, not just in work, but in life. Her strength, kindness, and faith in him were more valuable than anything money could buy. They faced small challenges together every day. A broken tool, a stubborn animal, or a minor accident in the field became moments of teamwork. Hassan admired how Amina handled each situation with calm and patience. She never blamed him for mishaps, never complained about the hardships, and never demanded anything in return. Her love and care were evident in every action, and Hassan felt his heart opening wider to her. He realized that he had found a partner who could stand by him through difficulties, someone who could face life's challenges with courage and grace. At the same time, Amina was learning more about Hassan's true nature. She saw that he was not perfect. He sometimes worried too much, hesitated in decisions, or doubted himself. But his honesty and humility made her respect him even more. She understood that his desire to pretend poverty was not a trick, but a test of sincerity, a way to find someone who valued love and character over wealth. This realization deepened her admiration and affection for him. She began to dream of a future together, imagining a life filled with shared responsibilities, laughter, and quiet contentment. Despite their growing closeness, both Hassan and Amina remained cautious. They had learned from life's experiences that true love required patience, trust, and understanding. Hassan did not want to reveal his wealth too soon, fearing it might change Amina's perception of him. Amina, on the other hand, had been rejected before and knew the importance of moving slowly and carefully. They respected each other's boundaries and allowed their feelings to grow naturally, without pressure or haste. The village continued to watch them closely. Some people were surprised to see Hassan spending so much time with Amina, a girl who had been overlooked and rejected in the past. Others whispered about the unusual match, doubting that it could last. Despite the gossip, Hassan and Amina ignored it. They had discovered a connection that was far more important than the opinions of others. Their love was private, sincere, and growing stronger every day. One afternoon, Hassan decided to take Amina to a small, quiet part of his farm that she had not yet seen. It was a hill overlooking the fields, where the sunlight fell in golden streams and the breeze carried the scent of flowers and fresh soil. They sat together on the grass, enjoying the peaceful view. Hassan looked at Amina and realized that he felt happier than he had in years. "Amina," he said softly, "being with you makes everything feel right. I have worked hard all my life, but I have never felt truly complete until now." Amina smiled, her eyes gentle and sincere. "Hassan, I feel the same way. You are kind, humble, and honest. Being with you feels natural and comforting. I admire your patience and your care for everything around you. I am grateful to have met you." Their hands brushed, and a quiet warmth spread between them. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. It was a moment of understanding, trust, and unspoken promise. As the days passed, they continued to grow closer. Hassan found himself sharing his thoughts, fears, and dreams with Amina in ways he had never shared with anyone else. He trusted her completely and felt safe opening his heart. Amina listened with patience and understanding, offering comfort, encouragement, and gentle guidance. Their relationship was built on mutual respect and honesty, forming a strong foundation that neither wealth nor status could affect. There were also small tests that life presented. One day, a neighbor needed help with a difficult task on their farm. Hassan and Amina spent the afternoon assisting them, despite the long hours and hard work. During this time, Hassan observed how naturally Amina helped others without seeking recognition or reward. Her kindness was effortless and genuine. He realized that her love for him was rooted in her compassionate nature, not in any desire for gain or advantage. Amina, too, noticed Hassan's generosity and care for others. He never complained about helping those in need and never sought praise for his efforts. She saw that his humility and integrity were part of who he was, not something he displayed for appearances. This understanding made her love him even more, knowing that he was a man of true character. Through these experiences, Hassan and Amina also learned to communicate openly and honestly. They discussed their hopes, their fears, and their dreams for the future. They shared stories of childhood memories, family traditions, and the lessons they had learned from life. Each conversation strengthened their bond, building a connection that went beyond surface attraction or fleeting interest. They were becoming partners in every sense, learning to rely on each other and trust one another fully. Despite the occasional moments of doubt or uncertainty, they remained patient and committed to one another. Hassan continued to pretend poverty, careful not to reveal his true wealth too soon. Amina remained humble and sincere, showing him that her love was based on who he was, not on what he had. Their relationship was a dance of trust, respect, and growing affection, moving steadily toward a future filled with love and partnership. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned shades of orange and pink, Hassan and Amina sat together on the porch of his modest home. The village was quiet, and the only sounds were the gentle rustling of leaves and the distant calls of birds returning to their nests. Hassan looked at Amina and felt a deep sense of gratitude. "Amina," he said softly, "I never imagined that someone could care for me so genuinely. You have shown me kindness, patience, and love, and I am grateful every day." Amina reached out and held his hand. "Hassan, I care for you because of who you are, not for what you have. Your heart is kind, your spirit is strong, and your honesty is rare. I feel lucky to know you and to be by your side." Their eyes met, and in that quiet moment they both understood that their bond was special, rare, and true. As the night fell, they continued to sit together, talking softly, sharing dreams and making plans for the future. They knew that challenges would come, that life would not always be easy, but they also knew that they could face anything together. Their love was no longer a fragile seed. It had taken root and was growing steadily, nourished by trust, respect, and shared experiences. By the end of this period, Hassan and Amina had become inseparable. Their lives were intertwined in small and meaningful ways, working together, supporting each other, and finding joy in simple moments. They had discovered that love was not about appearances, wealth, or social expectations. It was about understanding, patience, and caring for one another through life's joys and hardships. The villagers continued to watch, some still skeptical, others quietly admiring the connection between the farmer and the once overlooked girl. Yet Hassan and Amina paid little attention to opinions. They had discovered something far more valuable than approval, a bond that was genuine, resilient, and built on true affection. As winter approached, they looked forward to the coming days with hope and anticipation. They had faced storms, hard work, and doubts together, and their love had grown stronger with each experience. Hassan knew that the time would soon come to reveal his true status, but he was no longer afraid. He had found someone who valued him for who he was inside, and that realization gave him courage. Amina, too, felt ready for whatever challenges the future might hold. She trusted Hassan completely and knew that their love was strong enough to overcome any obstacle. And so, in the quiet village among green fields, modest homes, and hardworking neighbors, Hassan and Amina's story continued to unfold. They had faced challenges, learned about one another, and grown closer with every shared moment. Their hearts were now deeply connected, bound by mutual respect, understanding, and love. The stage was set for the next chapter of their journey, one that would reveal the truth, test their bond, and ultimately celebrate the power of genuine, unconditional love. As winter gradually gave way to the first signs of spring, Hassan knew that the time had come to make a decision. His heart had grown full with affection for Amina, and he felt a quiet certainty that she was the one he wanted to spend his life with. Yet a lingering worry tugged at him. He had been pretending to be poor for months, hiding the success and prosperity of his farm. Though it had helped him discover Amina's true nature, he feared that revealing the truth might change her feelings. Would she still love him when she knew of his wealth, his flourishing farm, and the comfort he could provide? This thought both excited and troubled him. Hassan spent several days preparing for the moment of revelation. He cleaned his home thoroughly, making it ready for the conversation. He also prepared a small, simple gift, a hand-carved wooden box filled with dried flowers from his farm, symbolizing his sincerity and the care he had put into every action for her. He wanted to show Amina that, despite the wealth he had kept hidden, his heart had always been honest and devoted. When Amina came to visit that afternoon, Hassan greeted her with a gentle smile. She noticed a slight nervousness in his eyes, unusual for the quiet, composed man she had come to know. "Hassan, is everything all right?" she asked, concern softening her voice. He took a deep breath and nodded. "Amina, there is something I need to tell you. I have not been completely honest with you from the beginning." Amina's eyes widened slightly, but she remained calm, sensing that what he was about to say was important. Hassan gestured for her to sit beside him, and he began to speak slowly, carefully, and sincerely. "I have been pretending to be poor," he said softly. "I wanted to know if someone would care for me for who I truly am, not for what I have. The truth is, my farm is successful, and I have resources beyond what I have shown. But none of that matters to me if the person I love does not see me as a man, not a provider or a title." Amina listened quietly, her heart steady, her mind processing his words. She could see the honesty in his eyes, the sincerity in his voice. She realized that this moment, though potentially awkward, was filled with truth, courage, and vulnerability. After a pause, she reached out and took his hand in hers. "Hassan," she said softly, "I care for you because of who you are. Your honesty, your patience, and your kindness are what matter to me. The wealth you have does not change that. I have loved you for the man you are, not for the life you could provide." Hassan felt a wave of relief and joy wash over him. He had worried for so long that revealing his true situation might drive her away. Yet Amina's response confirmed what he had hoped all along. Her love was genuine, unconditional, and rooted in the person he had become, not the possessions he had accumulated. In that moment, he realized that all the months of patience, humility, and quiet effort had been worth it. He felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and happiness. Word of Hassan's revelation spread through the village, and as it did, reactions were mixed. Some villagers were surprised, others skeptical, and a few were envious. Many could not understand how the richest farmer in the village would choose someone who had been overlooked and rejected by so many. Yet, despite the murmurs, Hassan and Amina paid little attention. They had discovered something far more valuable than gossip or opinions, a bond built on trust, respect, and genuine affection. In the days that followed, Hassan and Amina began to plan their future together. They discussed their hopes, their dreams, and how they would manage the farm and household as partners. Hassan was eager to include Amina in every decision, respecting her opinions and valuing her insight. Amina, in turn, felt confident and excited to contribute, knowing that her voice and choices mattered to the man she loved. Together, they envisioned a life that was not defined by wealth or status, but by mutual care, cooperation, and shared joy. Preparations for their wedding became a community affair. Villagers who had once doubted the match slowly began to see the depth of their connection. Those who had criticized Amina for her plain appearance realized that her kindness, patience, and sincerity were qualities far more valuable than looks alone. They admired Hassan's courage in seeking a partner who loved him for his true self, and they recognized the rarity of such genuine affection. Friends and neighbors came forward to help with preparations, contributing flowers, food, and small decorations, all eager to celebrate a union that represented true love. On the day of the wedding, the village was alive with excitement. Colorful fabrics adorned simple homes, children ran joyfully along the streets, and the aroma of freshly baked bread and sweets filled the air. Hassan wore a modest but neat outfit, maintaining the humility that had always been part of his nature. Amina wore a simple dress, adorned with delicate embroidery, reflecting her grace and inner beauty. Their smiles radiated happiness, love, and the quiet pride of two people who had found something rare and precious. The ceremony itself was simple but heartfelt. Villagers gathered around, offering blessings and warm wishes. Hassan and Amina exchanged vows that spoke of love, honesty, patience, and partnership. There were no grand displays of wealth or extravagance. Everything was sincere, meaningful, and reflective of the values they held dear. Their hands were clasped together, eyes locked, and hearts beating in unison as they promised to face life's joys and challenges together. During the celebration, Hassan looked around at the gathered villagers and felt a sense of fulfillment he had never known. He saw neighbors who had doubted them, smiling warmly now, friends who had once whispered, now offering congratulations, and family members whose hearts were filled with joy. The union of Hassan and Amina had become a story of hope, patience, and the triumph of sincerity and love over superficial judgment. Amina, too, felt an overwhelming sense of happiness. She had been rejected, overlooked, and underestimated for much of her life. Yet here she was, standing beside a man who saw her worth, respected her heart, and loved her unconditionally. She realized that her patience, kindness, and courage had been rewarded in the most beautiful way possible. She had found someone who valued her for who she truly was, and that knowledge filled her with a deep, lasting joy. As the sun set on that special day, Hassan and Amina walked hand in hand through the village fields. The sky was painted with shades of gold and pink, reflecting the warmth and promise of their future together. They spoke softly about their plans, about the life they would build, and the small, meaningful joys they would share. The fields that had been a place of labor and loneliness for Hassan had now become a symbol of love, partnership, and hope. In the following months, their life together flourished. Hassan continued to manage the farm with care, now sharing the responsibilities with Amina. She brought her insight, patience, and creativity into the daily tasks, making their home and farm a place of harmony and joy. They celebrated small successes together, faced challenges as a team, and supported each other through difficult times. Their love deepened with every shared experience, proving that genuine connection could withstand any test. The villagers who had once doubted them began to recognize the strength of their relationship. They saw that true love was not about wealth, beauty, or social standing. It was about understanding, respect, patience, and the ability to see the heart of another person. Hassan and Amina became an example in the village, a reminder that love built on sincerity and care could triumph over judgment and appearances. Hassan often reflected on his initial plan to pretend poverty. Though it had been a test, it had also been a journey of self-discovery. He realized that the greatest reward had not been the confirmation of Amina's love, but the lessons he had learned about patience, humility, and the importance of seeing beyond appearances. Amina, too, reflected on her journey. She understood that her strength, kindness, and unwavering belief in sincerity had guided her to the life she now cherished. Years passed, and Hassan and Amina's life together continued to be filled with love, warmth, and shared purpose. They raised a family, nurtured the farm, and remained deeply connected to their community. Their story became part of the village lore, a tale told to children and young couples as an example of true love, patience, and the power of seeing beyond surface appearances. Through it all, Hassan and Amina never forgot the journey that had brought them together, the months of quiet work, shared experiences, challenges, and honest conversation. They knew that the foundation of their love was not wealth, beauty, or social approval, but something far deeper: mutual respect, understanding, and unwavering care for each other's heart and soul. And so, in the quiet village surrounded by green fields and simple homes, a once lonely farmer and the girl who had been rejected and overlooked built a life filled with love, joy, and meaning. Their story stood as a timeless reminder that true love sees beyond wealth, appearances, and judgment. It is patient, sincere, and rooted in the goodness of the heart. Hassan and Amina had found what so many seek but so few find: a love that endures, nurtures, and transforms life into something extraordinary.